Here we go, here we go. So I'm probably going to end up narrating more than what I normally would narrate, just because I'm not sure. We've never ran video before, so we're going to play with it. So, wow, that is bright, kids. Okay, but that's okay. All right, so what we're going to do first, we're going to wake up our brushes by putting them in the water. So take one and pass it down. Right. That's a little trickier to do. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to grab our turquoise. And we're going to start laying it on there. Now, the trick to acrylics is to move quickly. Acrylics love speed and they love water. So I'm going to show you a little trick. See how this is starting to feather right here? What that does is that is an indication that you need either a little bit more paint or a little bit more water. So I just kissed it in the water. I didn't dunk it. I just tipped the brush in there. And see how that spreads around your paint better? So adding that little bit of water will help spread out what you currently already have on your canvas. So that helps. We're going to go mainly turquoise up top. And then as we go, we are going to put in our white. And I'll show you what the white does when we have our turquoise on there. You guys are doing good. If anybody needs more turquoise, just let me know.
All the way down?
You can bring it down as far as you can. I usually bring it to about a third. Okay. But bring it down as far as you can. I still have blue on my brush, and my blue on my canvas is still wet. So I just dipped it in the white paint, and see what happens when you mix. Because your blue is wet. So when you add a white onto your existing blue, it's going to blend and mix those together because acrylics like to mix when they are wet. Now it's up to you. You do not have to paint your sides. You want this to be your painting, but a lot of people like to paint the sides of their canvas as well, because now is the time as we're painting our background to wrap that image around. My favorite brush stroke to use and to lay on the paint is kind of a cross hatching technique, and then on top of that, with it still being wet, now you can kind of push it around and make it whatever air pattern you want, because we're doing a sky right now. And what I mean by that is I'm laying down the turquoise, and see what happens with all of this being wet. See what happens when I put on the white. Now it looks like it's almost windy because look how the sky is moving those clouds. See how those read as clouds now? If I wanted to do it more as a still day, then you go more horizontal. Diagonal implies movement. See how still this now looks? Can you all see that?
Yeah.
And if you did diagonal, then it would imply that the wind is moving. Does that make sense? And here's a little tip. If you get these kind of goobers that all paint has periodically, coming at it from an angle will lift them off, and then you can either put them on your boogers. Yeah. Some people are a little squeamish about the word booger, so we go with goober.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yes, but you can call them whatever you want. You can call it a paint nugget. Whatever.
Okay. You want the sign painted?
She's helping. That's okay. We help each other. Eleanor brings up a good technique. If your arms, if this is a little bit too far to comfortably reach over and over and over again, feel free to stand up to reach the areas that you want. I'll reference me instead of her. I have T-Rex arms, so I stand up all the time for my painting. This area down here is less relevant because we're going to be putting our trees right on top of there. So you don't have to worry or fret about this down here because it's all going to be covered. I do like to bring the image down pretty far in my my vision here. That way, if I wanted to put a split in between some of these trees, I don't have to babysit where the edge is. Does that make sense? See, like in this one here, see how there's a split in between the trees? That way you're not dictated by all of that. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Yes, can I paint yours?
Go for it. You rock it out, girl.
It's funny.
I know, right? See, we're helping McHelperson here. Okay. Now, just for future reference, for doing sky backgrounds for any foreground that you want to make, a lot of landscapes will have a turquoise background, and then as it gets closer to your landfall here, is going to be lighter. So for example, I'll show you an exaggerated version. So I've got the turquoise here, and then I'm going to grab the white and make it very light right here. The reason for that is because if you are looking at it across your landscape here, you're going to be looking through the atmosphere. Does that make sense? Looking through whatever pollution or whatever, you're going to be seeing more, it's going to be lighter. You're going to have a lighter area down there. So you'll notice in a lot of landscapes, it's lighter near the bottom, wherever your land is going to go. Another little tip for when we're laying down our paint, right now I'm working with a round brush. It's rounded at the top. You guys have square brushes, which is fine. They both kind of work the same, but what the round brush does, it makes it so there's no edges in your paint that you're doing. Now, you guys have been able to work around that. I work around it all the time, but the round keeps those edges from happening, but it will keep, see that start? See where you can see the start? There. The trick to doing that and getting away without having those starts and stops is when you are coming in with your paintbrush, you're kind of working in almost a circular motion. So see how I'm coming in? I'm coming in at an angle and then off in an angle. And that's how you get away from some of those starts and stops. Does that make sense?
Yes, because I've got starts and stops.
Our next step is one of the hardest. Does anybody remember what the hardest step in this whole class is?
Leaving it alone.
Leaving it alone and letting her dry. Doing her thing, being a painting. So, but anyway, so what we're gonna do, we've got black, brown, and green. So I'm gonna do a process that I call this part pulling it out to mix the paint. This is a pulled out function. So I take a little bit of one kind and then pull out a little bit of another kind so I can kind of adjust my color on the fly. Does that make sense? See how dark that's getting? But see, now I still have all of my colors usable. And this makes it so, say for example, I make the perfect color, I love it, love it, love it, and then I use it. Now I want to try and make that color again. If I had mixed everything, it's hard to match that color. So now if I have this part and it's dry, now I can pull out this part and like, that's not quite right. Maybe it needs a little bit of black. And you can color match against yourself. Kind of makes it easier that way. Okay, so once you get a color that you like, I'm gonna go darker, but that's me. You can go with whatever shade that you wanted to create there, okay? So, our first step to making a tree. Do I have any Virgos here? Anybody who's a perfectionist? Okay, perfect. Because this is when Virgos have a little bit of a heart attack. Because after they've worked really hard on their background, and then I ask them to do this, they have a heart attack. That's why I ask, so I can prepare you.
No heart attacks.
No heart attack sitting.
So we're just going to draw a line down.
Now, that is one tree, okay? So you can decide where, you can put 3 trees on here, you can put 1 tree on here, you could put 12 trees on here. Now, this is also where you need to decide if you want to see any of your landscape, like the tree that we did right here. So if we were to do this one again, see how it has a base. You could make this look like snow if you wanted. Now, most of these trees paintings, I have the trees going all the way down. So you see what I'm saying? That tells you where to stop your tree. So if you're wanting to see part of your snow, then you're going to want to stop your tree up here. But I like to go all the way down because I kind of like my viewer to be sitting in and looking up at the trees. So they never really see where they land to the ground. But that's entirely up to you. Like I said, this is your painting. Okay? So what I'm going to do is we're going to do a line down. Now, for trees, does it really matter if it's perfectly straight and that they're measured? I have one of my Virgos, bless her, she's very OCD, and she would get a ruler out. She wanted to make sure they were 2 inches apart. I'm like,
Like nature.
That's not how that works. I think you're missing how that works. So anyway, I say all of that to say, relax about it. What we're gonna do is you're gonna pop in some trees, varying sizes. You don't have to do it even all the way across. Like you can see, these are pretty well placed here. And I'm gonna put a break right here, put another little one there, and then a tall one right there.
And I'm going to do what?
Whatever you want.
What am I doing?
I believe in you.
You do?
Yeah, you got this.
Well, of course I do.
And you could see when we're on to the next steps. Like say for example, if this was my tree trunk and I went like that, that's okay. Because it's all going to get covered up anyway.
Right.
So you don't really need to stress about how that appears right now.
I'm doing the property. You're doing the property.
How are we feeling?
A happy little tree over here.
That's right, happy little trees. I'm sorry, that is copyright Bob Ross.
You know he never sold a painting?
What?
I heard that.
Did he
never
give
sold-
them away?
He gave them. He gave his paintings away.
Did you know he had a pet squirrel?
No.
Yes.
He didn't.
Okay, so now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you. Okay, so the brush that we're working with is an angled brush, okay? The reason for the angle is so that that angle parallels our canvas, okay? So see how this works? See how they match up? The reason for that is because if you put pressure on bristles like this, they're going to splay out and give you a fatter stroke. And if you ladies who do eyeliner know that that's true. The harder you press, the thicker the line. The lighter you press, the lighter the line. Okay, so what this angle helps you do is it helps you adjust your pressure. Because if this was a straight up and down brush, you would have to keep it parallel to your canvas to get a really super thin line. This allows you to rest your hand this way so it matches. Does that make sense? So what we're gonna do at first, because pine trees in the old wild, they have multiple tops. Okay? So we're gonna fan this out just a little bit. You don't have to do them the same.
Just on the top.
Just on the very, very top. What we're gonna do is we're almost gonna create a little lion tail on the top, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Very good, just like that. And I like what y'all are doing. One way to keep your hand from bouncing around, and this is another reason why we want our background to be dry when we are doing this step, is because we are anchoring our hand from bouncing around by balancing it on our pinky. Keeps your hand from running away from you. Or if you've had a lot of coffee.
Say wine.
Or wine.
I was gonna bring wine.
Whichever. Okay, so now that we've got our little frayed tops, what we're gonna do is, notice we were going in a vertical fashion, okay? We're striking down towards our main middle line. What I'm gonna do now, and I'm gonna do it slow so y'all can see, I'm gonna take this and see how we went from vertical to slightly sideways to get us that side angle. Now, we're gonna do that again. See how we're gonna lay it down sideways? See, now I'm more horizontal. So we're gonna do this. So it almost gives us a little lion tail at the top of our trees. And it's all gonna make sense in a minute, I promise. Does anybody have any questions so far?
I can't really see what you did.
Oh, I'm sorry, dear.
That's okay.
Here.
I'll stand up.
Does this help if I turn it this way?
There you go.
Okay, so we had our multiple tops, and now I'm gonna take this and lay it more horizontal.
On the ones
On
that
the
you just did.
The little fan.
Yeah, see how it kind of makes it look like a little lion tail or a donkey tail?
Mhm. Oh, so we're gonna add to that,
Uh-huh,
below it.
yes. Because what that does is that gives us the middle step in between our branches growing out and then growing into our topper. Because the way that a tree grows like that is it starts its sprouting, and then as it grows, those ones that were like this are now following like this. Does that make sense? Okay.
Looks like little baby palm tree.
I know, aren't they so cute? All right, so our next step. Okay, I'm gonna do it this way so everybody can see. Is we are going to do what I call the zigzags. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna, in general, we want our silhouette of our tree to be relatively triangle. You don't necessarily want it to be up and down, even though there are pine trees that do that. The triangle gets it to read at your eye, fills it in as this is a pine tree. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go swipe, 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 big, big. See how it gets bigger at the bottom? See how our overall is a triangle?
Do you need water for that?
You can. I always like to have a little bit of water in my acrylic paint. She just behaves better that way. Alright, so once we get all of our swipes in there, you don't have to go the same direction on your swipe from tree to tree. That's entirely up to you.
Are they supposed to be connected?
They don't have to be right now. We're gonna flush them out here in just a second. Okay. How are we feeling about it so far?
Good. I think.
Okay. Okay. Now, near the bottom. Okay, you see this? What I like to do is, I'll show you where we're headed right here, but you'll also see kind of how thick we're gonna make this. Okay, so can y'all see this? I'll start over here so everybody can see it. Okay, that same brush technique that we used for this, we're gonna do it down our whole tree, but I'm gonna show you, okay? Now I'm kind of rocking this brush back and forth. So you can, I'm gonna do it real slow so y'all can see. See, I'm rolling it in my fingers a little bit.
Back and forth.
Back and forth. Back and forth, back and forth. What that does, that gives us a variegated brush stroke here. And see how this starts to read as a tree. And we like some of these little breaks in there because that shows that the light is shining through our branches. Now, as we go down, so that was slow speed, now we're gonna go fast speed. As we go down, you can be pressing harder because we want those to kind of splay out. And see how it starts to fill this in right here. And as we get down towards our bottom, this is where we're gonna want this pretty solid in through here. Because see how this reads as a tree now. See?
Mine's not doing it right. I don't think.
Would you like my help?
Sure.
What these swipes do is they force us to, with these dabbing motion, it forces us to cross this barrier of our tree trunk. Because what happens with a lot of students is they will, they'll put in their tree trunk and then they'll do dabbing and stuff on one side, and then they do dabbing and stuff on the other side. They never cross this barrier. By doing the zigzag, it forces you to go across there, because what happens is if we did it just on one side and the other, it reads as a feather, number one. Number two,
It looks more like a branch.
it looks, you get more of this
Oh, okay.
as opposed to that. So what this does is this doesn't account for the branches that as you're looking at a tree, some of the branches are on this side, some of them are on that side, and some of them are coming directly at the viewer. So by crossing that, see, look how this already looks more like a tree right there. By crossing that center. You see what I mean? You're doing great.
I am?
Yes.
You must have a crowd on this side.
A drought on that side. It's very windy on that side.
That one's windy. Drought. How are you doing, Alicia?
She doesn't know yet.
I don't know either.
You're doing great, guys.
You. We're doing great, guys.
Good. We gotta give ourselves affirmations.
Yes. See?
I am doing great. Everyone loves my painting.
Right?
I am a good painter.
You're going to be amazed with yourselves. So this is kind of before and after filling in those dabbing edges. Okay, so this is our kind of outline of our story here, and this is our story.
Ooh, look at that.
So see the difference?
Mm-hmm. Nice. Mine a pine tree or a fir, Douglas fir?
Whatever you want. You can even do cypress with this technique. You can do really any of them. This is where you can kind of see how it would be important. See, I wouldn't have had to, I don't have to fill all of this white part in if I had brought my blue all the way down. But I didn't, so we're gonna have to modify our design, which is fine. I'm all right with that. Does anybody have any questions so far?
We're very serious painters here.
I know.
A lot of concentration.
Is that how you know if dinner is good, if everybody's quiet? Does that follow through with painting?
I think so.
You know it's really good if everybody's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
We're chewing.
Quiet is good. I didn't have any quiet when I went to your house.
I'm sorry.
No, that didn't have anything to do with you. It was Dad's fault. You know what I'm talking about?
He was over there tearing the door apart. He got Uncle to help him.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, Michael said he took the whole thing off, and then he decided he would just take the hinge. I don't know.
Just the hinge.
It was just the hinge that
Was
needed help,
broken.
right?
And we just took the whole thing apart.
You also want to wrap your tree image around your sides.
No.
If you're wrapping your image around, if you are paying attention to your sides. Like I said, you don't have to paint the edges. I kind of got in a, I don't know, in a kick where I didn't care about the sides because I kind of liked that it proved without a shadow of a doubt, it's kind of a painting fingerprint, that this painting was painted directly on this canvas. That this is not a digital image that's been put on there and wrapped around. Do you know what I mean? Yes, an original. Okay. So for those of you doing snow, you don't have to do this step.
I do.
For those of you that are doing or wanting to do kind of fresh growth on your trees, I'm going to show you the green. So if you cannot see, feel free to move to where you can, or I can turn it a little bit to see. Okay, so the green that I picked, this one's called Crisp Green. It's a nice bright color. Okay, so now is where we get to decide which tree is in front of the others. Okay, we kind of get to play this back and forth deal a little bit. So for example, this tree right here and this tree right here, which one should I have in front? Should I have the tall one in front or the short one in front?
Probably the tall one.
Oh.
I guess it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter. So it's whatever. So what we're gonna do, how about we'll do this short one in front of this tall one, because this tall one's gonna be in front of that one. So we're gonna go tall in front, short behind, short in front, tall behind. So we're just gonna vary it. But really doesn't matter, because this is where you get to pick. So I'm gonna pop this one out. And by definition, this one is gonna be pushed back, okay? So I grabbed a little bit of that green. What I'm gonna do is I'm dabbing it using the same brush stroke that we did to create it. And see what happens to this edge? See how it automatically pushed that one back. Now, I'm going to show you, this is where we have our most opaque paint right here on this edge. As our brush starts running out of paint, we're going to go, see how it starts to get kind of where it looks like it's got more gray in it or more black in it? But see how bold that is, and then it gets faded. But see how it still will round out our tree? And now I'm gonna pop this side a little bit more. So I'm gonna do it on this side. Does that make sense?
So you want a little bit thicker on the side that's going to push the tree back?
So, and see this is, I'm popping this one right in front. And see how I'm still following my triangle here? And then as I'm running out of paint, I'm going to use that.
So you really shouldn't load up on the paint?
Yeah, you don't have to load it up a lot. See how that fleshed out our tree a little bit? And then also let us decide which one is in front. So now I'm going to put this one behind that one so it's even further away. So I'm going to put my green on this side. See how that pushed him back? And see how I'm going to let this black, I'm going to let that black be a nice little line right there. But see how you get this faded gradation of where your paint was starting to run out and off of your brush? And that allows you to kind of play with that. And so see, by adding the green to this side, that just pushed him even further back.
So that little tiny tree behind it is further back.
Yep. So now he looks more silhouetted and in the shadow of these other trees. So I'm going to grab you some green and you can kind of go to town.
Are you gonna do that one? Are you gonna do that? What she's doing? Or are you gonna do snow stuff?
I don't know. I think I need a suggestion. I'm not sure. I wanted to do snow, but I'm not sure.
Oh, do you want winter or?
Yes, because this is fresh. We could put a silhouette of Bigfoot walking right through here. But that is so we're gonna pop this one in front.
No, interesting or not one.
I want snow.
Okay, there we go.
I'm craving snow.
No, we didn't get any.
Yeah, we didn't get it. And if we did, we would have been complaining.
That's true.
2 more minutes.
I know, I'm preparing my text. Sweet is
Or-
2 E's, right? Or 1 E and A. Sweet.
2 E's.
Sweat is
Is EA. Sweet is 2
2
E's.
E's. I don't know why I have trouble with that.
I was listening to a comedian who's talking about how he was in North Carolina driving through and they had all these little fruit stands and he goes, worst spelling on the signs ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I was going to pull over and get some sweat potatoes and
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember some of the other things he was saying. It just reminded me of just sweet
Oh,
versus sweet.
I raised the girls in a small town in Texas, and it was a winter time, and I was like, please tell me this was done on purpose, on accident. I mean, purpose. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna start off with a dark gray. Now it doesn't have to be like a charcoal gray. I'm just saying we're gonna do a gray before we do the white. That's all I'm saying. Because what that does is that gives some edge to your, it allows your snow to be more billowy.
Billowy?
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our gray. Now I'm gonna start with this guy here. So snow is gonna land on the tops. Okay, so I'm angling my brush to be on the tops. And yours is gonna look better than mine because yours doesn't have this green underneath. This bright green. Okay, so what I'm gonna do.
Well, of course mine is going to look better than yours.
Yeah. See?
Of course. So it starts off as gray.
Mm-hmm. Starts off as gray. And the reason for that is because we want our white to be seen as really bright and billowy. And if we do the darker gray first, and I'll show you what it does, it gives that white something to bounce off of. Otherwise, has nothing to bounce off of it. So now I'm going to take my white and I'm going to put it right on top. What's nice about this is you don't have to wait for that gray to dry. You don't want to beat a dead horse and like do it really roughly over the whole thing because you want some of this gray to pop through, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So we're going to pop the snow right on the top. Let's see what that underpainting does. You can also, here's another technique, and see how this branch was very delicate and light here? And the snow that I'm putting on is thick because you want it to look like it's like it had dumped 3 inches of snow. So it's okay that your brush is thick with paint and it's getting very, see how it reads more as snow and that it's thicker. But see how snowy that starts to look? And it's because we put it on top of our gray.
I'm going to ask you a dumb question. Why didn't I just paint the tree gray?
Because then you don't get the depth of some of this. Because when you look at a tree that's been covered in snow, you can still see that in between there, some of those branches go way far back to where they connect to the trunk.
The trunk.
So you're going to get some of that depth in between here.
Okay. Just wanted to ask.
And it's easier to get your kind of silhouette going in the black and then bring it forward. So now once I do,
See hers up there, Mom. Look, see how you can still see like branches sticking out. That's
okay, so now I'm going to go through and do more of the
Gray.
that gray. Okay, so are you ready for some gray? Here, you can use that one. And did you want snow as well, or are you wanting
Yes.
brighter green?
no.
Okay.
Top.
Yeah, I have a tendency to start at the top. You can start wherever you're comfortable. I just like that the more delicate the brush strokes kind of go at the top, where you can see the toppers on the trees. Does that make sense?
Is that gray or is it mud?
You're doing great.
Not mud?
No.
On mine, should I, which tree should I highlight next?
Well, let me go over there and take a look.
I'm not sure what I have here.
You're not
Looks
sure
like-
what you have here.
It looks like a glob.
It is.
Isn't it fun?
So Uncle wanted to know if,
You were at your house.
oh, that I was already there?
No. He's all. I just want to make sure you're gonna bring your mom back, or do you want your dad to go back and pick her up? And I said, no, I'll take her. So they've been at your house this whole time.
Oh, they have?
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
well, you can take him back.
Right. Dad wanted to come.
Maybe he does, because if I know him, he's gonna wanna go to San Diego, right? And I know him.
Oh, that's why he wanted to come to the lab.
That's what it was.
Since
See?
we're in the area, we're gonna stop over there now.
Mhm. I don't know how to do snow.
You're doing just fine.
Oh no, this is the gray.
Yeah, we're just doing great.
Don't get crazy, you're just doing great.
Yeah.
This is definitely a dominant tree here.
Yeah.
Pushing everybody aside.
If you were doing this in the Christmas version, where we put Christmas balls on one of them, that could have been the one to put Christmas balls on. What you do?
I knew that.
You might help?
I think I do.
Okay.
Okay. So to make this, that little tree on the right more dominant, I need to actually come in like this in front.
Well,
What did I do? I did something.
that's okay. No, you're fine. Because all we did right here when we were fleshing this one out is it bumped that one behind. So now you don't necessarily, you can still pop this one out. See how that's shaded? You did fine. You did great.
Okay. So just leave that.
Just
alone.
leave that one, and then I would go ahead and put some of that green
just
along
on
that
this
edge.
side. All the
And
way.
then you're gonna decide, is it this one gonna be behind that one? Is this grove gonna be closer than that?
I'll probably make this one in front.
Yeah.
So just stop up to about right here on this edge here.
Yeah.
So is Uncle gonna take, Dad gonna take Uncle home?
I guess.
Yes.
I told him we were gonna be a while. That's why I told him to leave.
Yeah. Because Uncle already wanted to go home.
I know. But he also likes to talk, so.
Really?
Chatting.
Really? He likes to talk, huh? Where'd you get that? He caught Jordan over there and he's talking to him.
Good.
After we get the snow on, our favorite part is
Glitter!
glitter.
Glitter!
You can put glitter for days, y'all. Here's a little trick with glitter. Do big glitter first. So if you wanted to do this kind of cello glitter, that fish food glitter, do the big glitter first, and then do the smaller glitter.
So when you moved here, that's when you opened up your shop?
No, I moved here and worked at the Range Cafe, and then I worked at a wine store, and then I got very sick with I got blood clots, and then after I was able to walk again. Then I started back up over at the range because I could modify my hours and be able to stand for that long.
How in the world did you get blood clots?
They're calling them unprovoked. It's just a little fun trick my body learned how to do. Apparently my body went, hey, I know what would be fun. Pudding blood. Let's try that.
Where were they?
Where were they? I had one in my calf, and then that one created one in the vein, the deep vein in between my knee and my hip. So there's a big vein right there. So I had one stretching from there to there, and then that was the one that was peppering my lungs. So that was fun.
Because it was spreading to your lungs.
Yes.
You're lucky that it didn't kill you.
Yes. I'm a lucky bird.
Yes, you are.
As my sister-in-law, she's a nurse, and she says, I don't know if you quite understand how lucky you are.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I said, well, I do understand that I'm blessed indeed.
Do you wear support hose now?
No, but I probably should.
To do different color. See how she did lighter gray and then darker.
Well, and what I did here is this gray was wet. So as that one was wet, then I just went back in with white. And so that's how you get this medium gray, is I'm not deliberately mixing a medium gray and then adding that and then adding the white. But you can kind of see how this is wet right here? Watch what happens when I just put the white. See how it goes to that medium gray? Because I'm just adding it right on top.
Can I still send you the black?
Sure.
So, what?
You're doing fine.
It's okay?
We need more white.
Okay. You're doing great. And like, what am I doing here? Why am I organizing gum and folding t-shirts? I did not survive to do this.
Yeah.
That's not a calling kind of job.
That'll learn you.
Yep. Took me longer to learn than I like to admit. To learn, wait a minute.
Well, when I got out of high school, I was working at a Fur's cafeteria,
Mhm.
which was pretty close to where we live.
Mhm.
But I thought, I don't want to do any waitressing stuff. I need to get myself going to school. And I started going back to school.
It sounds very grandiose, but what I would like to do is I have some, for lack of a better term, inventions that I would like to have produced and marketed, and that is where residual income could come in. But that's kind of the goal, and that's what I'm working on. I just don't know how to do that.
Go to Shark Tank.
I know, the problem is with on Shark Tank, a lot of times they want you to have the patent.
They want, yeah,
And
They
you
want
have
to know
to
how
already
much you've
sold.
already invested.
you know, sold a lot of your.
yeah, they're like, oh, what are your numbers for this year? Well, I haven't had any because I haven't been able to make it. And they're multi-million-dollar businesses that they're currently running. They don't have time to hold my hand as I figure out all of these things, you know? And so, so I get it, but that's why I haven't gone on Shark Tank, is because I think they're gonna want me to have the patent. And the patent on some of these projects is going to be a provisional, or not a provisional, a functional patent, and then also a design patent. So that's different patents, which, you know, some of those can be $5,000 to $10,000 a piece or more. And so I'm gonna have to figure out some things before I get to do that. But that's what I would like to do.
Sounds good.
It's better than folding t-shirts.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind designing some t-shirts and then somebody else can fold them.
Are they related to the inventions? Are they related, your ideas, to this?
To painting, no. They are related to, I have some fashion concepts. I have some baby products. I have some,
Ooh, that looks good, Alicia.
I know, look at that snow.
Look at her.
See how they pop out
That
as
is so
snow?
different.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh, wow.
Oh, you've got glitter now? Where's your glitter?
Are you ready for glitter?
Oh, it looks like she's got glitter already.
Oh,
I thought you had
just
glitter
wet.
on there.
It's just wet.
Oh my gosh. I like your trees better than mine.
My tree's better than your tree. That's what that reminded me of.
anything you can do.
I can do better. I can.
So I don't bring him anything anymore. He's so mad at himself. About his birds.
Oh,
About his what?
His birds. Those winter birds we did.
Oh.
He was like, mine looks like a kindergartner. Drew it. I don't know if the last time we painted together.
But it's just fun. It's
did
just
you tell him? Well, every time you didn't throw the football perfectly, did you stop and decide never to touch football again?
That he's a perfectionist.
Yes.
He's a Virgo.
See?
You know what? One of my daughters.
There's your sign.
You know what? One of my daughters is the perfect. She was born. They're born in January, but really they should have been born in March.
Right.
So I don't know what the thing is for March, but anyway, she's
Pisces.
a perfectionist.
Pisces and Aries.
And
Pisces and Aries.
Yep.
Yeah. And she, oh my God, her dad's Aries, ex-husband, and she's just like him.
Uh-huh.
The same thing.
Yeah.
But, what does he do?
My ex-husband. He's
Well-
retired.
No, but I mean,
This color, in reality, is bright purple. Okay. This color, in reality, is bright turquoise. Okay. So I'm going to do a little bit of both. I'm going to do a little bit of this purple. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So say, for example, I want to pop this back. See what happens when I add a little bit of that purple on there? just pops it back a little bit. Now I'm going to pop this one back. So he's back behind that one. And I'm going to do the same right here for this little guy, being back behind that guy. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of the blue, just to brighten this up. See how it's still dark. What we're doing is adding a little bit of color, but that's also obviously going to be darker than the white. So it does act as a, you know, a pushing back kind of quality. So now we're going to decide, we're going to, we might pop this guy, this side back a little bit. And just add a little bit of.
How do you decide where you're gonna do it?
I usually just go with, like if I wanted this guy to be in front, that means I'm gonna have to darken anything else that's kind of competing next to it. So that's where I chose to put that one. But I'm only adding a little bit of depth in through there. But you can kind of see how that adds just a little bit. But see, you don't need to do a whole lot. Now,
It's pretty clear.
that's if you like that. Now, glitter. I have, this one is called Iridescent Snow. So it looks like this. Okay, so it's got a little bit of bling in it, but mainly it's kind of puffy snow looking. But as you can see, that's opaque. So when we glue it on there, if you put the glue on solid, what's going to happen is it's going to stick, and it's going to be it'll be a whiteout with this one. Now, if you still want some of this depth in there, you put your glue on just like you put your white on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can kind of see through it. Now, that's flurry.
Because that would cover all your
Yes,
strokes
all
and
your
everything.
shading. This one is what I call fish food glitter. So it's kind of like thick, like fish food little cellophane pieces. Okay? So this is a thick one. That's what that one is. Then I have unicorn glitter, which is a smaller glitter and with what's called an AB finish, the Aurora Borealis finish. So it's kind of rainbowy. Then I have this one, which is all white. But this does great for snow. You can kind of see on the, yeah, the flowers right there with the glitter on it.
What did you
That's
use on
white
the weight?
glitter. That one's white glitter as well. That's this
Okay.
one.
That one.
So you can do any of the glitters that you want. If you're going to be using this one and then want to use some of this, you can totally do that. But if you use this one first, you put your glue on, stick this to it, none of your glue is going to be showing. If you wanted to put this on, then you have to add more glue. If you put glue on, then put this, wherever this is not covering the glue because it's thicker and like chunky and whatnot, then this will stick to what's left.
Okay.
Okay? So, and what say you? Any that you want?
I kind of like this one.
The white.
I can show you what it looks like. Do you want to see what it looks like?
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to put, I have a clear glue.
Don't eat it.
Don't eat it. Okay, and I'm going to put it on the brightest areas. I'm going to dab it on here. I'm going to rock it back and forth. To get it to be the most realistic looking is to put it on, obviously with a brush, and instead of just swiping, you know, even though the glue is clear, you want it to sparkle in a deliberate fashion. Does that make sense?
What if you only put it on one side, as if the sun is shining?
Yeah, you can totally do that.
Either coming up or
Mhm.
going down.
Yeah, and you can kind of see where it has been applied
Mhm.
by the shade. The trick with this is work in small sections and put your brush in your water in between. So I'm still going to put glitter over here and stuff, but I'm just working right here for right now. Because if I don't, the brush it's going to dry on my brush. And then we lay it flat to put some on. And I sprinkle a little bit. And then, sorry, you can kind of tap it around. And then you can also put it back on, you know, another plate like this.
Oh, I like that. That's pretty.
So you see how you kind of get the, see, this one's just on pretty much that edge. But that way you get to direct where it goes. So this is also another one that if you had by chance put snow, like flecked snow or put the dots of snow coming down, then that would be another place to put glitter as well on your flakes. Who's ready?
I got too much, didn't
Do you need my help?
I? Okay. I'm always making messes.
That's all right. I'll help you. See, you got it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you got it.
I got a drip. Don't need a drip.
And that is how we do it.
So I want to put a little bit of the fish food glitter first.
Okay.
So I'm just going to do the same glue, right?
Yes,
So
same
put
glue.
that on top and then do the white glitter after, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I know, right? Coming off both sides. There.
I'm too blue.
I know, right?
But we're
I have a very sparkly plate.
I thought I was messy.
Trust me, I'm a hot mess.
I said, but good thing we're not perfectionists.
Yeah.
See? It's good. Okay, I'm gonna dump this guy back in there. See if I can get it back in there. Okay. Let me get you some clear. There's the clear. And then you brush it where you want, and then and then to do the fish food glitter, you lay down the painting.
Mine's gonna go on one side.
There you go. Is that still rolling? Okay. go.